ॐ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Krishna, the embodiment of bliss, who came to establish dharma and punish the wicked. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying chapter 9, the sovereign wisdom and sovereign mystery, Rajavidya Rajagruha Yoga. Here Lord Krishna clearly states that everything in this universe is nothing but himself. And there are various ways of approaching the divine. Whatever way we follow it up, we get into the same supreme abode of the Lord. Verse number 16 says, Aham kraturaham yajnaha swadaham amaushadam mantroham ahamevajyam aham agniram hutam. In this verse Lord Krishna says, I am the kratu, that is a particular Vedic rite. I am the yajna, the worship enjoined in the smriti. I the swadha, food offered to the pitris, ancestors. I the aushadha, all vegetable food and medicinal herbs. I the mantra, the chant with which oblation is offered. I the ajya, the ghee and other articles of oblation. I the fire into which the offering is poured and the oblation. So according to this verse, everything is he himself. So this stanza supplements the ideas contained in the 24th stanza of the 4th chapter, the Jnana Yoga, the chapter 4. There is the verse number 24. Brahmarpanam brahmahavi, brahmagnam brahmanahutam, brahmaivatena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. This particular verse supplements the idea contained in the 24th stanza of the 4th chapter. Apart from God there is no object, no thought and no act. Holding everything as He is a way to reach Him. So everything is divine only. It depends upon how we perceive it. Proper perception is required. To have that proper perception, we have to have proper spiritual guru who will guide you, who will sharpen your intellect. So, that's about the verse number 16. Verse number 17 says, Pitahamasya Jagato Mata Dhata Pitamaha Vedyam Pavitram Omkara Riksama Yajureva. Here he says, I am the father of this world, the mother, the dispenser of the fruits of actions, and the grandfather. I am the noble, the purifier, the sacred monosyllable Om, and also Rig, Sama and Yajurveda. Verily I am all these things. So, is clearly indicating here that the whole universe is his children. All the beings are the children of God. That's the meaning of this verse. I am the father, I am the mother. So, the Divine Supreme is the real parent of all of us. He is ever witnessing and trying to help us, protect us in every manner so that we can approach Him. So, God being the source of the universe and the beings in it, He is held as the father, the mother and the grandfather. Each individual is rewarded by the Lord according to his efforts, and therefore He is the dispenser. You have to make effort, whatever way you want to go. But God provides the result depending upon the way how you act upon. So this world where we are born is the place for action. It's called Karma Bhumi. We are bound to act and we have to act. But how to act, that is important. How should we act? That's important. If we act like animals, naturally you tend to become animal. If you want to become divine, all your activities would be done in such a way that you develop all spiritual qualities: ahimsa, asteya, non-violence, non-stealing, non-hatred. All these divine qualities you should cultivate. That character formation will uplift you to become the divine. God definitely gives the reward depending upon what action we do. In the same way, if a person is always engaged in brutal actions, naturally he will be ending in a very brutal way of life. So, each individual is rewarded by the Lord according to his efforts, and therefore he is the dispenser. Knowing Ishvara, everything comes to be known in its perspective. The Lord is, therefore, the knowable. The elements, earth, water, fire and air, have the power to purify the things brought in contact with them. One gets purified when one comes in contact with God. God is therefore the most efficacious purifier. That's why we say, when you repeat the mantra, repeat the mantra consciously, sincerely, wholeheartedly. That mantra has the power to purify all your bad samskaras. It will do in its own way. You are supposed to do only repetition of the mantra with sincerity and concentration. The rest will be taken care of by the Divine Lord, and certainly you get purified. That's why you get peace of mind. When you are engaging in japa, meditation, worship and such other spiritual activities, you get a kind of joy, you experience a kind of joy, a kind of mental peace. That shows that you are being purified. So the process of purification leads you towards wonderful peace. And Lord Krishna also says, all the Vedas are nothing but himself. These Vedas were given by the Lord himself so that the whole creation functions according to different ways of rules and laws. And these rules and laws are given very specifically in the Vedas. But nowadays, on account of various reasons, people have lost that glory of the spiritual knowledge, and their mind is wholly sitting on the secular knowledge, worldly knowledge. That's all. All the finer aspects of knowledge are forgotten, have become unknown. So, the more we give attention to the spiritual knowledge, the more we go forward in our spiritual path. Another point, here Lord Krishna says, I am Om. So those who repeat the mantra Om, they are repeating the mantra of the divine. The sacred scriptures proclaim that sound is a seed from which the universe has come into being. Sound is God. It is very expressed clearly in the Upanishad, Shabda Brahma, Nada Brahma. So, the Divine Supreme persists eternally as a symbol Om. The symbol Om is the blending of three letters, A, U, Ma. A plus U plus Ma becomes Om. So, the letter A, the syllable A, originates from that Om. The first syllable A means sustains. The second letter U and the first letter O and the first letter A, its sound originates as A, sustains as U, and terminates as Ma by the Creator. Uttering Om once, the universe is projected, maintained and withheld. The sadhaka who gets fixed in the chanting of Om evolves in Godhood. Just Om itself is enough. If you only concentrate and repeat the mantra, meditate upon it, that itself will take you to the Supreme Divine. So, the formless aspect of Brahman and Brahman with forms, both are represented by this symbol Om. So Om is very sacred. That's why we all say, whenever you repeat any God's name, it should be followed by Om. Om Ramaya, Om Ramachandraya Namaha, Om Shri Krishnaya Namaha, Om Ganeshaya Namaha. So Om should be there. Simply should not say Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Shri Vasudeva. It's alright. But the full potency, spiritual potency is manifested when it is chanted along with Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Like that. All the mantras start from Om. Just Om itself is enough. That's about this verse number 17. Verse number 18 says, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Sudhrata Prabhavaha Pralayaha Sthanam Nidhanam Bijamaviyam. I am the goal and the support, the Lord and the witness, the abode, the refuge and the friend. I am the origin and the dissolution, the substratum, the treasure house, and the imperishable seed. So, here the Lord describing His divine nature. I am the goal. So, goal is given to us by the Lord Himself. I am the goal, the fruit of action, such as going to heaven through performance of meritorious deeds. I am the Paramatman to be attained through the path of knowledge. I am the witness of what is done and what is not done by all living beings. I am the abode wherein all living beings dwell. I am the shelter for the distressed. I relieve from distress those who come to me. I am the friend. I do good without expecting any return. No trading. I am the source of the world. I am that in which it is dissolved and that in which it stays. I am the treasure house, that which living beings shall enjoy in a future period. I am the imperishable seed, that which causes the growth of all things that germinate, and which endures as long as the world endures. Nothing indeed springs up without a seed, and since growth is constant, it is understood that continuity of the seed never fails. So, the universe exists. For a time being, it gets dissolved, again it evolves. So evolution and involution, they alternately come. Verse number 19, Tapamyaham varsham nigrinna misrjami cha amritanchaiva mrityuscha sasachaham arjuna. Again Shri Krishna explains, as the sun I give heat, I withhold and send forth rain. I am immortality and also death. I am being as well as non-being, O Arjun. So how is this possible? He says, I am immortality and I am also death. Do you see the contradiction? Immortality as well as death. I am what is and also what is not. All this means that the one who is above these dualities expresses as the dualities. If God were only one-sided, there would never be anything else because it is already conditioned. Think of a soft clay. Because it is completely unconditioned, you can make it into whatever you want, toys, pottery, plates and so on. But if it already had a form of its own, could you make it that way? No. Only the formless can be made into the form. Only the nameless can be given any names. Only the unconditioned can be brought into any condition. That's why we say God's love is unconditional. It is not conditioned. So it all depends upon our approach. If we approach God lovingly, we get love. If we worship God as light, we get light and become enlightened. But if we say to the flame on the altar, I don't like you here, I will put you away in the attic near the roof, will the same light be blessing us? No. It will burn down your house. With fire people cook and eat. With fire they also burn and kill. God's powers are neutral, like a zero. By breaking the circle, you can shape it into any letter or number that you want. All the numbers and letters are a broken zero. But originally it is unbroken, beginningless, endless. That is the essence of this. That is the secret also. God is above all these things, and it is God who manifests as all these things. There was once a Siddha, that means an accomplished yogi, who worshipped the Lord as a young goddess. He would sing, "Oh my beloved goddess, you came to me as a mother, then you came to me as a wife, and then after some time you came to me as a child, but it is always the same you." Normally, we wouldn't say mother and wife are the same, but the accomplished ones don't see the difference between one and another. Both are God. Of course, they have different functions to perform, different roles to play according to our conceptions. But at the absolute level, it is just zero, neutral. By remembering this, we perceive God's names and forms, God's energy and God's expression as everything. Once two children were having a conversation. One little girl said, "If you tell me the place where God is, I will give you this mango." The other one smiled and said, "I will give you 2 mangoes if you can tell me where God is not." See the fun. All seeking comes to an end when you experience this truth. Mere knowing of it is not enough. When they talk about the highest experience, the scriptures beautifully say where to go, where to see, what to do. Really, you don't have to do anything. Sometimes by seeking it, you miss it. God says, not by doing, not by progeny, not by wealth, not by wisdom, not by education, not by scholarship, but just by renouncing everything, you experience this truth. Why? Because it is there already. You have the pendant that you treasure on the necklace you forgot, you are already wearing. Now you are seeking it in everywhere. Then because it's so valuable and you lost it and you can't find it anywhere, you cry and cry. And some point you go in front of the bathroom sink to wipe away all your tears, and looking in the mirror you discover, my goodness, I have had it always. I have it now. Then you laugh at all you are seeking. Look at that. I have read it all the while. I have had it all the while. So the necklace was there, but I had forgotten. A gentleman once sang a beautiful song. Where are you looking for God? In the temple, on the hilltop, in the sea, in the synagogue, in the church, or in the scriptures? Where are you looking about? Are you insane searching for God? The very searcher is God. Like that person sings. Verse number 20. Traividya mam somapa puta papa yajnirištva swargatim prarthayante te punyamasadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divyadeva bhogan. Those who know the 3 Vedas, Traividya means the Vedic knowledge, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and drink the soma juice, a beverage from the same soma plant and used in various Vedic sacrifices, and are purified from sin. Worship me with sacrifices and pray for passages to heaven. They reach the holy world of Indra, the lord of the gods, and enjoy in heaven the celestial pleasures of the gods. So what Sri Krishna is telling is, you asked for it, it is given. So you are performing a ritual with the idea to reach the heaven. So accordingly, you will be going to heaven for enjoying the pleasures in the heaven. Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. Evam tri dharma manuprapanna gadagadam kama kama labante. Having enjoyed the vast heavenly world, they enter the world of mortals when their merits are exhausted. Thus, abiding by the injunctions of the three Vedas and desiring objects of desires, they are subject to death and rebirth. So we are dying and taking birth again and again because of cherishing our desires. So the desires are the cause for our coming back and forth into this world to undergo all sorts of experiences in life. So here Lord Krishna says, as soon as the merit is exhausted, the people who are enjoying the pleasures in the heaven, they come back to this mortal world. They have no independence. Thus, those who engage in the rituals prescribed by Vedas, they keep coming back and forth from the heavens to this world of human beings. To explain this, an example is given. A person spends a lot of money and he got elected to the assembly. He became a minister. He enjoys his position very well. After enjoying his position for 5 years, his term is over. He will come back to his home. Again, a person who had acquired a lot of money went to a big place and engaged himself in various pleasures. As the whole money is exhausted, he came back to home. So also, those who seek heavenly pleasures performing certain Vedic rituals and enter into heavenly regions, after enjoying different types of pleasures in heavens, they come back to this world of human beings. So, this world of human beings is a place of action, karma bhumi, whereas the place of heavens is bhoga bhumi, which provides various types of pleasures, entertainment, etc. So, Devaloka is meant for exhausting the merit. Here, in the Devaloka, he cannot acquire new merit. But in this world of human beings, one can engage in new activities besides undergoing happiness and misery in accordance with his past karmas. One seeking to get liberation from the world of Devatas should have to come to this world of human beings, whereas men who want to get into liberation could go directly from here, from this world of mortals. So it is said that people on this earth are fortunate from those in the heavens. Next verse. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogkshemam vahamyam. Those persons who worship me alone, Shri Krishna is telling, meditating on me as non-separate, worship me in all beings, to them thus ever zealously engaged, I secure what is not already possessed and preserve what they already possess. That is, the Lord takes care of everything. That's the beauty of this verse. So Ananyaha means as non-separate. That is, looking upon the Supreme Being as not separate from their own self. Or Ananya may also mean without any other thought. Then the translation of sloka should be persons who worship me in all beings, never harboring any other thought. So I carry it, etc. because while other devotees work for their own gain and safety, those who do not see anything as separate from themselves do not do so They even do not cherish a desire for life. So the Lord secures to them gain and safety. They feel total identification with the Atman, and they feel that they are eternally connected to the Divine. So they are totally fearless. To understand this point, there are some incidents in Vivekananda's life. How, in what manner the Divine protects. This incident happened in Rajasthan. In course of travel, while traveling by train, he would meet with so many experiences. Sometimes he had to starve most of the time because he had no money. Once it happened that a merchant traveling with him in the train was helping himself to varieties of eatables. And he is eating in front of Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji was hungry and tired, but he did not beg for food. The merchant spoke to him very tauntingly and said, "Look, you are an idler." The merchant is telling you, "Swamiji, you wear the saffron clothes only because you do not want to work. Who will ever feed you? Who cares if you die?" Like that he began to tease Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji was tired and he was hungry, but he did not lose patience. He just kept calm. Just then, a sweetmeats fellow from nowhere came there suddenly, offered Swamiji some eatables and said, "Sir, I saw you in my dream this morning. The Lord Sri Ramchandra himself introduced you to me. So, I have brought this food for you, please take." Swami didn't ask for it, it came. How the Divine Lord helps. The hearty merchant was put to shame when he saw all this. He could not believe. Another incident we see how Swamiji would face the situation because of his attitude of non-separateness. He would feel oneness in everything so strongly that nothing would affect him. So, once Swami Vivekananda went with Raja of Khetri on a hunting expedition. While the king and his men were busy hunting, Swami Vivekananda sat under a tree in a contemplative mood with only his staff for company. He didn't have anything else. Just then a tiger rushed along. Swamiji's first instinct was to raise his staff and put up a fight. But immediately he realized how foolish it was to confront a hungry tiger which positively could finish him in no time. Swami Vivekananda did not lose his presence of mind. He remained absolutely quiet, staring at the tiger. The tiger came close to him as if it would attack him any time. But the tiger was watching Swami Vivekananda for a while and then silently walked away without harming him. Meanwhile, the king and others rushed to the spot to give him a gun to defend himself from the man-eater. Swamiji politely refused, saying, "Sadhus need no guns to protect them. Even a tiger would not harm them." let no creature of God have any fear from me. Like that Swamiji made a statement. Another incident comes in the Swamiji's life. It happened in England. Swamiji had gone for a walk with a gentleman and a lady. Suddenly there came a mad bull rushing down the road towards them. The gentleman ran away in fear. The lady attempted to run, but unable to do so, she fell on the ground. Anxious, Swamiji made a quick, bold decision. He coolly stood in front of the lady with his arm folded. Later he said that he was mentally calculating how far the bull would be able to throw him away. Seeing the daring standing posture of Swamiji, the animal silently retreated. He did not do any harm. Because Swamiji was fully concentrated and his identification was total, that non-separateness. He would feel he is one with the whole. And that attitude was so well established in Swamiji's personality that nobody could do any harm to him. So that's the way how the Lord takes care of the devotees. If you totally surrender to Him wholeheartedly and sincerely, you will have nothing to worry for anything. God gives you what is needed and helps you and protects you in every manner. We shall stop this and continue next Tuesday. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may we all be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.